This episode will be one of the best in this series explaining the book Dopamine Nation, because I will teach you how being addicted to anything, shopping, watching football, movies, masturbation, music, anything, makes you lose pleasure in that thing, and in other things as well. Let me give you an example that happens to all of us. You hear a song for the first time, and you absolutely love it. You feel extraordinary excitement and pleasure when listening to it. But over time, repeating that song over and over gradually makes you lose the enjoyment until you reach a point where you can't stand listening to it at all. In this video, I'll explain in detail why this happens to you, and I'll prove to you that if you had goals last year and didn't achieve them, it's because you're addicted to something that's holding your life back. This is the third part of the book Dopamine Nation by Anna Lembke. Grab your favorite drink and let's get started. We'll start the video with a question. Why are you and I addicted to a certain thing? And let me repeat, when I say addiction, I don't only mean drugs, pornography, or masturbation. I mean any activity you do excessively to the point that it stops your life from moving forward. It could be addiction to watching series and movies, shopping and spending large amounts of money, watching football, playing video games, or watching anime. I'm sure you're addicted to something I just mentioned. The question is, why do we become addicted to it? You might say, because that thing gives me pleasure and enjoyment. And here lies the problem. Addiction doesn't arise from the reward itself, but from your desire for the reward. You might say, I don't understand. I'm here, my friend, to explain it to you. Let me ask you a question. How do humans feel happiness? A person feels happiness because of chemical reactions in the brain triggered by certain hormones. The combination of these reactions and hormones creates the feeling of happiness. The four most notable hormones are dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. Let's focus on two of them so I can explain where the problem lies: dopamine and serotonin. In the book The Power of Habit, researchers took mice and genetically modified them to prevent dopamine from flowing in their brains. Then they placed food in front of them. The mice were extremely hungry, but they didn't eat. They placed the food directly at their mouths, and they still didn't eat. The reason behind this was dopamine. Let's break this down further. Suppose you're addicted to a certain food. The pleasure you feel after finishing the meal, that feeling of satisfaction, is caused by serotonin. That behavior you do and then feel pleasure afterward is also caused by serotonin. So what's dopamine's role? We'll call it the hormone of desire. It's what makes you want to seek serotonin. Many people call dopamine the happiness hormone, but that's not accurate. Dopamine is only one part that plays a role in happiness, but it is not the happiness hormone. Anna Lembke says there's a difference between liking and wanting. Serotonin is responsible for liking, and dopamine is responsible for wanting. So you might ask me, is it really possible that simply wanting something is what causes addiction? And I'll tell you, yes, my friend. The desire for something is what creates addiction. Let me give you an example that will help you understand clearly how this works. Let's say you eat a meal that gives you a serotonin boost of 100%, a full dose of pleasure. And there's also a game you play that gives you the same amount of serotonin, also 100%. But the amount of dopamine released before you get the reward is different between the meal and the game. The meal might give you 50% dopamine above baseline, while the game might release 200% dopamine above baseline. In the end, you are much more likely to get addicted to the game than to the meal because the game gives you a higher dopamine surge. Now let me ask you a question. Why don't we get addicted to exercising or eating healthy? Because the amount of dopamine released before doing the activity is very low. But once you force yourself to work out, you eventually feel amazing pleasure and satisfaction afterward, released by your body after exercising. Let's go back to the mouse that was genetically modified so its brain became unable to release dopamine, the hormone of wanting. Anna Lembke explains, they put the mouse in a cage while it was very hungry and wanted to eat. They placed food in front of it and it didn't eat. They moved the food closer and it still didn't eat. They even put it right in front of its mouth and it didn't eat. Why? Because its brain was unable to release dopamine, the hormone responsible for desire. But something surprising happened when they put the food directly inside the mouse's mouth. It started eating and releasing serotonin, meaning it enjoyed the food, yet the second time it got hungry and they placed food in front of it, it still didn't eat, because it lacked the feeling of wanting. Just like with exercise, you don't want to do it, but once you force yourself to start, You actually feel good. Anna Lemke says, the more dopamine that a drug or behavior releases in the brain's reward pathway, the stronger the addiction to that drug or behavior becomes. Meaning, anything you consume or do that increases dopamine levels, and especially increases how fast dopamine hits your brain, increases your addiction to that behavior or substance. Anna Lemke explains that for the lab mouse, consuming chocolate increases dopamine above normal levels by 55%. Sex increases it by 100%. Nicotine, like cigarettes or vapes, increases dopamine by 150%. Cocaine increases it by 225%. But the shocking one is Adderall, a medication for treating attention deficit, which increases dopamine levels by 1000%. Imagine that David, the man we talked about in the previous video, was just a student who struggled with social communication. A doctor prescribed him a medication that boosts dopamine release by 1000%. Of course, he would fall into addiction. This is how addiction develops, my dear friend. We'll stop here. In the next video, we'll talk about how these huge amounts of dopamine actually distort the shape of your brain cells forever. If you found this helpful, leave a like so I can see how many people are interested in this series. Thank you for your precious time.